Hello and thanks for joining me. I'm doing a lesson on alternate strumming today, and I'm just going to talk about this concept of alternate strumming. I am going to use a song as a basis for my lesson, but I'm not necessarily teaching the song. I'm teaching the concept of alternate strumming. So the song that I'm using is a lesson that I just uploaded. It's inside of this lesson series, this beginner lesson series called Fly Away. So I'm going to be using the chords from Fly Away to talk about alternate strumming. But ultimately, if you're following my lesson series, if I have you do, let's say, just down strums on the quarter notes, like, and then now you're learning to incorporate some up strums, okay? So it could be as simple as so the most basic way to do this is to take every down strum that you're doing and add an up strum on the back end. So it's, if you were doing, now you're gonna do, okay. And that may not be the most creative thing, but we're just looking at the technique for right now. Especially, a lot of people get caught on the up. And the reason they get caught on the up is they have a problem with the way they go down. So the problem with the way they go down turns into the problem on the way going up. So let's talk about that. A lot of times, not necessarily all the time, so if you're not experiencing this, please don't dismiss what I'm saying, because I'm going to be saying a number of things, and the chances are that at least one of them is going to pertain to your situation. So what some people do, and this is wrong, but they'll actually play the pick and they'll retreat from the string. So in other words, if this is the pick, well, this is the pick, but let's say these are the strings, my hands are the strings, and let me get it in focus here. And then they'll actually, when they go to play the strings, they'll play in a way where that guitar pick is pointing down, like up to the ceiling, so that it's like that. And so they're actually bending that pick down as if it's retreating from the strings. And the reason they do that is they kind of hit the string partially with their fingernail and partially with their fingertip and partially with the pick, and it makes it a lot sound more forgiving. It makes the mistakes not as pronounced, okay? The problem with that is when they try that technique and they go up, they're catching this pick on an angle, and it's nasty, which is a really big problem. I've seen other students, they compensate for that, catching it at an angle, by turning the angle on the up. So they'll go, and that's wrong too. Okay, so if any of this is pertaining to you, then listen up, okay? Because I want you to learn how to do alternate strumming. Alternate strumming, the right way to do it is to hold the pick and to hit those strings, look right here, straight into my, you're gonna hit those strings straight. You just hold the pick straight. You hold it as flat as you can, and it's just going to interact with those strings, and it's going to hit them, and then you're going to come back up. And when you're hitting it on the up, it should pretty much sound the same as on a down. I'm not bending my wrist like, I'm not retreating from the strings. In other words, I'm engaging the strings. And that means you probably, if your pick is too hard and you're playing these big strummy songs, that's going to be a problem, okay? If you're using a very hard, brittle pick, let me see what I have here in my bag of picks. Like here, this is a 1.0. This is the Dunlop 1.0. This is probably, I don't know if you can see that, this is probably way too hard to play an acoustic. Actually, that's doable, but not much harder than that. Also, you don't want to have a pick that's too thin. If the pick is too thin, it's just too floppy, and if you're a beginner, a lot of beginners like really thin picks because they're really forgiving and it doesn't really expose your mistakes. The problem with playing with super thin picks all the time is that, you're right, it doesn't expose your mistakes, but because it doesn't expose your mistakes, you won't know what you need to fix in your playing because your mistakes are not obvious to yourself, okay? So there is an advantage of playing in a way where your mistakes become more pronounced. In more advanced levels, That has to do with the overuse of compression, the overuse of delay, the overuse of distortion or saturation. All these things try to hide your mistakes to make you sound better, okay? But as an overall tactic, that tends to be not a good one, okay? So the other thing, so you want to be able to go down and up. I'm going to talk about a couple other picking issues here. So when you start doing up and down picking, a lot of times students have a new problem, and the new problem is that pick starts moving. It starts moving, it starts turning, and if you really pay attention to what it does, it actually turns in, it turns this way, okay? And first let's talk about the right way to hold the pick. The right way to hold the pick is with the first finger and the thumb. I gotta hedge that statement. I'm gonna say the right way to hold the pick, in my opinion, is with the first finger and the thumb, okay? I've been doing these YouTube videos for a while now, over 10 years, and I've interacted with a lot of different opinions, so I'm a lot more respectful of other people's point of view. But I do have really valid reasons as to why to hold the pick like this, okay? If you hold the pick like this, you're going to have a problem. As a beginner, you're fine, but when you become an intermediate level player, you're going to have a problem, because when you try to get more intricate, like... that's going to be a problem if you got too many fingers on that pick, because you may not have the string control or the palm muting that you want. It's a very tricky relationship. The palm, the fingers, or the fingertips where it holds the pick, and the pick is touching the strings, the palm touches the strings, and of course the left hand is touching the string. So I'm really touching the string in 3 places, and I don't want to overcomplicate that relationship where the pick touches the string or the hand touches the string. Adding more fingers or changing the grip can really compromise your technique. Here's another thing that people do that's wrong. That the reason they're doing this is to not have the pick slip or turn. So if you're doing these, I'm going to call them exaggerated responses to fix the pick from turning, I just want to address that with a video. So if you're doing this and you're holding the pick like a lot of metal guys will do this, and they'll actually curl their finger around and they'll like play like they're metal. That's also not a good tactic, not a good way to hold your pick unless you're doing metal. And if you're doing metal, I don't have really comment for that. But if you're trying to take that technique and apply it to like acoustic folk playing, it's not a good fit. So we're back to just holding the pick in a natural way. But now we have a new problem, right? Now if you hold the pick with just the first finger and the thumb, it starts slipping. It starts slipping, and the reason it slips is when you hit the strings are hitting you. And I want you to think about this. But when you learn this in physics, right? Remember in high school you learned that with every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when you go to hit those strings are hitting you. How hard are the strings hitting you? They're hitting you exactly as hard as you're hitting them, right? Okay. Give you an analogy. When let's say you're driving a sports car, or just you're driving your car really fast, and you're buckled in the driver's seat, and your best friend is buckled in the passenger seat, and you go to make a hard left, and you knew you were going to make a hard left, so you made a hard left, but you braced for it. You didn't warn your friend, and they went and like their head was banging against the window, you know, because they were like flying out of control. But you anticipated that left and made it, and you knew exactly how much to flex your core to anticipate that left to keep your body intact. So in other words, you're in control of how fast the car is going, and you're in control of how fast you take that turn, and you know to anticipate what it's going to do to you physically. And so you can brace for it. It's a lot like that with playing with a pick. You're in control of how hard you're going to hit those strings. You know how thick the strings are, you know how thick the pick is, and there is going to be a consequence of hitting those strings with the pick. There's something is going to happen to your hand where the strings are going to hit you as hard as you're hitting the strings. The question is, are you braced for that? Just like when you make that left turn, are you ready for that impact? Are you absorbing that impact? Or is it totally catching you by surprise? If it's catching you by surprise, that's why the pick is turning in your hand. So you have to hold the pick hard enough for it to not turn. Okay? So how hard do you hold the pick? Well, you're going to hold it as hard as you're going to hit the strings. So you might say to me, well, why not just hold the pick really hard? Why not just have a death grip all the time? Dude, and just set it and forget it, and not have to worry about all this intricate different grip with all these intricate different striking in the strings and different grips and responses to the string hitting your pick and your pick moving in your hand. So isn't that better just to have a death grip and just to hold it really hard? Well, the problem with the death grip is you probably can't do it for more than one song, you know, or if you can even make it through a song. And the reality is, you know, we don't want to just have more muscles. You know, you can't get buff enough hands to play a concert with a death grip. You have to learn how to interact. It's a lot like, I use another analogy. It's a lot like playing baseball. Okay, I didn't feel like doing my hair, so I'm wearing a baseball cap, and I'm talking about baseball, but I'm not like a big baseball guy. No offense to you baseball guys, I'm more of a guitar guy. But anyway, I do use this analogy of baseball, and this is my drumstick. I'm going to pretend it's my bat. Okay, so if I'm going to play in baseball, if I'm at the batter, I'm here, I'm ready to batter up, I'm ready to hit the ball, and my grip on the bat is relatively loose. Now, when I swing and then I wind up and I strike the ball, I'm going to be flexed. My elbows are locked, my back is flexed. Now, imagine if I went to wind up and I already had my elbows locked and everything flexed from the beginning. That would be ridiculous, right? What's the right way to do it is to be loose and boom, you lock at the moment of impact. Well, how is this true about guitar? If you have that death grip all the time, that's like winding up like all flexed. You want to be loose so that you can effectively go in, right, to the right speed and angle, and then tighten up as you go at the right moment. And that's what it looks like when you're actually playing guitar. So, like I said, this is Fly Away Lesson Part 2. That's how it works. Up and down. The right hand is hard, guys. I don't teach the right hand right away. I'm talking about the right hand now, and this is after several lessons, and I'll talk about it some more as we progress. But the right hand is a lot harder than the left hand. The reason the right hand is harder than the left hand is you have all the technical challenges that the left hand has, but on top of that, you have to do math, very complex math. And, well, I shouldn't say very complex math. It's not like calculus or anything. It's actually basic counting to 4, but you have to do it while you're doing everything else. Like, for instance, if I were to go... keeping track of every single beat, every single groove, where does it live in the drum beat, where does it live in the sequence of the groove on the count, knowing this stuff, there's a lot going on. So if you've only been strumming like 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of a sudden, you know, you're trying to do something more complex, you may be challenged in that, okay? And so just for an overall talk, just an overall way of learning, I would encourage you, if you're a beginner, try to focus on your left hand first. And it's frustrating for many reasons because you want to do these embellishments, especially if you've worked hard to learn the strumming of the song and then you're trying to fit that strumming into the chords and they don't quite fit. Take out the strumming. Take it out and just make a very simple quarter note strum with a rhythm. Try to understand where the chords lie in the song and how to place them into the song. And then later you can come in after the math and the structure is really intact and then start filling it in. If you fill too much in at first, it's like you get very emotionally committed and loyal and locked in to doing your strumming a certain way, and then a lot of times it won't fit in the song because of fill in the blank. Either anomalies inside the song, or you had the wrong strumming pattern, or there were exceptions and variations that you didn't really understand, and so you didn't do that. And so there's a lot of skill in playing with the song. Okay, I don't want to get on a tangent. I want to keep this about picking and strumming, so I'm going to end this video here. But if you have questions, please leave me comments. If there's things that you want me to do videos on, please mention them in the comments. I'll be happy to do them. Also, you can join my Patreon. The information is below. On the Patreon, if you have questions, I answer all your questions either in the comment section or I make a video for you inside of Patreon. So if you're joining my Patreon, you can have access to me in terms of answering your questions, helping in development. And of course, if you're really stuck, just join me on Skype. All the information is in the description below. So I hope this helped you. And my advice to you, if you're struggling with the right hand, go slow. Go slow. You got the rest of your life to learn guitar. Try to go slow. A lot of people get in trouble with the right hand, and that's why they end up quitting guitar. Okay, so this is actually a big deal. Okay, go slow. Go slower than you think you need to go. And that would be my best advice to you. All right. So cheers, guys, and I will see you next time. Thanks.